Oh, so this is the thanks I get for working overtime.
Welcome to Summer Showcase Overtime. My normal co-host of Zach Bronkhorst is not with me today. He had a family coming into the country over there in Italy, so shout out to him for putting family first. But I do have Randy Schroeder, who's with me, who's my normal regular on Summer Showcase, which was postponed yesterday, unfortunately. But we're here tonight to hopefully run down through a little ELF action, talk about a little bit of the news that's been coming on. I'm not as well versed in the news part of it that Zach has. I don't know where Zach finds all his news, but I know the basics. Like I look at obviously Instagram and stuff, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just not on there enough in comparison to Zach, or I don't know. I'm not sure. So yeah. Anyways, first, Randy, how you doing, my man? And thank you for joining me tonight on short notice, I guess you could say.
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, and thanks for putting up with my. I wasn't able to make it yesterday because of family stuff too. So, thanks for having me on tonight.
Yeah, not a problem at all. And again, I appreciate you coming on and doing this overtime with me. I love talking a little ELF, and all the co-hosts that normally I line up throughout the course of the week had something going on over the course of the last few days. So I totally get it. It's summertime. It's hard to coordinate schedules all the time. So, but
yeah, and I'm not as well versed in the news or signings either. So we'll get through it though.
Yeah, no, for sure. First and foremost, I want to talk about obviously Hamburg. Jarvis McClam. He what was it? Torn Achilles on a backflip heading into the game yesterday. Definitely, most likely, will be out for the year. Which is very unfortunate. Even though, I think even though he would tell you it's been a fairly disappointing season from his standpoint and from his standard, it's still sad to see that happen. Midway through the season. So wish him a speedy recovery as well. Hamburg also had their other 2A imports on defense. I think they were cornerbacks. I can't remember their names off the top of my head. But both of them, I believe, also ended up on IR as well. So tough week for Hamburg, and that was coming off of a pretty tough loss this week as well. So, what are your thoughts on this? And I know that Hamburg's obviously going to bring in some A imports in, but what's your thoughts on this so far? And what's your thoughts on the quarterback change so far that's happened with D'Angelo Fulford?
Yeah, it's sad. I feel bad for Jarvis. That's a horrible situation. Right before the game, and I saw something on Reddit that said his family was in town for that game too. So not not fun, and what a horrible way to start the game. And no wonder. I mean, you kind of watch the game. They just came out flat from the beginning. Usually you play, in front of that many fans and, against a team like the caliber of the Rhine Fire, and you're kind of juiced up a little bit, and they just looked like the wind was taken out of their sails. So I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. But feel horrible for him and his family to have his season end like that. I think though, you were talking about it before we got on though. I think his replacement, we're really excited to see Torrin Justice kind of take his stab at it. I did watch him in the LFA a little bit. He was Shelton Epler's receiver and number one guy, and he's quick, he's fast. All I saw was him catching deep posts and go routes, and so it'll be fun to watch what he does against these DBs in the ELF. And then, I got pulled up here. Yeah, Lee Pitts and Caleb Mills are out for Hamburg Sea Devils as well. And they're bringing in 2 DBs, smaller school guys, but athletic and can cover. So that would be interesting. I think the Hamburg season has been disappointing this far. And as far as the quarterback change, I think Aaron nailed it on the head last week, which was I hope it's not the last time we see Jarvis either.
Me too.
He's too good to I hope he's back next year. As far as the quarterback change, is nothing against is nothing against either of the guys, but I mean, it didn't look any different to me.
Right.
If anything, it just looked like, obviously we don't have any experience with the receivers. We're coming in probably on a Tuesday or Wednesday and getting thrown into the fire. So I don't think it looked bad by any stretch of the imagination. It just looked like the same old, which, like I said, Aaron Ellis kind of called that last week. Just what do they expect?
Yeah. And it was a tough, obviously, first game for D'Angelo Fulford back in the league, going up against the Rhine Fire, who look like they're on fire.
Yeah.
Anyways,
yeah.
So I mean, it took a turn for the worse for Hamburg. They were, they put up 23, so at least they were able to move the ball and put some points up. But without having Jarvis, and yes, Jamal, I agree. I hope it's not the last time we've seen Jarvis either, as well. As far as Torrin Justice is concerned, he's coming over from the Fundadores of the LFA, and he was Sheldon Epler's main guy over there in Mexico for the last couple of years. And this guy is like a record setter, all kinds of records in the LFA. He just makes plays consistently. And like I said to you before we came on air, I'm surprised we haven't seen him in the CFL or even the UFL over here. I'm not going to lie. I think he's this good. And I don't know what he'll do for Hamburg because, Jarvis McClam, who has been a difference maker in years past, was kind of, I don't want to say it was him himself, but the team as a whole has been disappointing for the most part. So Jarvis's production has taken a hit. I don't know if Torrin will be involved in Hamburg. I don't know if they're going to turn around and say, what we didn't do it with Jarvis, maybe we'll do it with Torrin. I'm not sure how they're going to, if it's the same old, it's not going to make a difference. That's the unfortunate part. So I'm really happy to see Torrin in the ELF. I'm really excited. I hate that it comes at Jarvis's, expense, and I really hope it's not the last time that we see him. But they also are signing Nazir Schroeder, who was a shocked release a couple weeks ago. Actually, I think it was Vierfar. No, I can't remember off the top of my head now. Helvetic. I think it was Helvetic.
Yeah.
Helvetic released him, which shocked a lot of people. It was very similar to the Ken Hike, release when they released Ken Hike as well. Like, it was very, very surprised to see that happen. But he gets another chance. He comes back into Hamburg, and I'm excited to see what Streeter does with this team, because I feel like Hamburg's corners, even though that they were played really well this year, I feel like Streeter is a little more of a shutdown corner where you can have a little bit of the freedom to be able to do some things with, in comparison to the other guys. I am hoping that the scheme works. I just don't know if it's going to, with the way that this season has gone so far for Hamburg.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if reading what Jamal said. Yeah, it's true. So I think as far as the signing of Nazir Streeter, his college film looked pretty good. I was pulling it up here. He can play zone. He can play man. He's a ball hawk. So I don't know if it just wasn't the right situation with him there in Switzerland or what, because sometimes that plays a lot into it. But you're wondering if it's, I don't know what's going on inside that building, or if there's any spats between coaches and players and that sort of thing, which when you're losing a bunch of games, that tends to happen. So I don't know. I'm excited to watch. Then the Helvetic Guards, mercenaries. Wow. There you go.
Old school right there. Throwback.
Money in the curse guard there. Didn't they sign Darius Robinson after they released Streeter? Am I wrong about that?
No, I think you're right on that. That sounds,
so maybe that has something to do with it, where Robinson was available and they felt like they had a better playmaker there. Robinson was one of the best DBs I played against in the league by far.
Yeah.
And so any chance you can to get him, I understand. So maybe that had something to do with it as well. But I'm excited to see what we can do in Hamburg.
Yeah, I am too. And another corner as well that they signed. They're signing Brandon Richard as well. And Jamal said that Schroeder, Hamburg might have upgrades. And Brandon Richard's another guy who is, he's a bigger corner. I don't think people realize that. I wouldn't say he's huge by any means, but he's a bigger corner in the sense of what most corners go for. But playmaker, he's kind of lengthy. He's got some good size to him, which I think is great for this league. It's just a matter of whether or not he has the speed, and it depends on scheme as well, right? Like you factor in you're coming to a team that they're in Germany, so they have good coaches usually in that area. So hopefully they have a good scheme where they can maximize both Streeter and Richard's strengths to just basically to hopefully get this defense on level to not let teams put up 61 on them.
Yeah, and it's tough as a quarterback to go against teams that have two DBs, two A's at DBs. I mean, it's just tough. You got to start going to your number 3 receiver essentially, unless of course you got an outstanding American. But it does kind of make it tough as an offense to go against that. I know that was kind of the recipe for success when Frankfurt won their first championship in the first year of the ELF. They had 2 DBs back there, and at a time in the ELF where most teams were bringing over either a linebacker that was an A import or a defensive end. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see if it turns into kind of a more no-fly zone back there or what. But I guess we'll see. We'll find out. Who do they have next week?
They are at home against Frankfurt, so that's going to be a good game.
Yeah, that will be a good game to see. And what this might be out of left field, but what was your favorite game last week?
My favorite game last week, honestly, that Helvetic and Vienna game was really exciting. But Cologne and Frankfurt, I think, was my favorite game last week, and not just because I called the Cologne upset. And yes, that's a shameless plug, a little bit pat on the back for me, but because that game was just really exciting. I thought it was just really good. It was competitive. It was probably one of the better games I have seen in the 2 years that I've been watching this league. And that says a lot because there's been a lot of great games. But I really enjoyed it. I was thoroughly excited about it, and I was happy to see Isaiah Weed, lead his team to a victory. I mean, I don't know how you felt. I mean, you actually messaged me and said that you thought that was one of the best games. But did that stay true even with the Stuttgart and Raiders game later on?
It did. I just thought the energy in the stadium looked electric. It just was kind of it was what the ELF was all about, was that Frankfurt Cologne game. You had the stands were full. They had the production I thought was good. I know the audio was coming in and out, but just the camera shots and all that, it was just, I thought it was great. And the gameplay was awesome. I mean, it was one of the only games that has truly been kind of back and forth this year. Or I know Cologne was kind of in control for the most part, but it always felt like, at what point are they going to lose the slip? And they didn't. It was back and forth. It was good football. It was an entertaining game. And I went down a rabbit hole after that game because all the hate online about the ELF, 90% of the hate about the ELF is complaining about how many blowouts there are. And I went down a whole research rabbit hole of the ELF is not the NFL. It's just not. No. The better way to equate it is high school, or not level wise, but I'm just saying the talent disparity, high school or college. Because you're recruiting the local guys for the most part. You're bringing in a few stars, and that's the makeup of the team. So it's more like college, less like the NFL. And the average margin of victory in college is 15 points the last few years. 15 points. It was 12 or 15 over the last few years. But either way, it's 2 scores. So none of the NFL games, college games are these 1-score exciting games. Who remembers the freaking Georgia Bulldogs blowing out? Was it TCU last in the playoffs or the championship game?
No. Oh, in the championship game?
Yeah, like
Oh
63
yeah.
to 3 or whatever it was,
I
right?
thought you were going somewhere else with that, and I was going to be very sad. So
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, no, I
no,
won't go.
no, it's all right.
I won't go there. So yeah, my point is last week was amazing. You have the Helvetic Mercenaries losing by 9 in Vienna.
Oh man, we could touch on that game too. That was
Oh,
exciting.
sorry. I know that's a
No,
different
no, by
show,
all
but
means, no, you're good. Yeah,
I was excited after last week. Last week I was like, this is what the ELF is all about. I mean, you had competitive games. I know you had Madrid blowing out Barcelona, but you go turn on college and you go watch any game, you're gonna get a 40-0 game. 13 of the 75 games that are played are like that. So it's just I don't like hearing all the hate about how bad the games are when you have a week like last week.
well, I mean, you think about the ELF though. Like, I think a lot of people tend to forget this is like what is this? The fourth year it's in existence. I mean, you have several teams that are in countries that don't have, and we talk about it on the show often. They don't have that years of experience with playing like Germany and Austria do, and so when you have some of those teams that that have been around for a while playing American football, it does give them a distinct advantage, like over teams like Helvetic and VFR and Prague, like because they don't have that system, right? From a young age, like, oh, we have a team, we have a league, et cetera, et cetera. Like a lot of those other leagues are fairly newer in the grand scheme of things. So I think people just tend to forget that. But there was 4 games last week that were decided by 9 points or less.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's half the games that are on the slate. And then the other ones were a 61-23 game that was exciting for a chunk. And then, there was two like real major blowouts. So there was 4 out of the 7 games were 9 points or less. Like,
Yeah.
how can you really be upset about that on any level as a fan of football? Like,
In a week where we probably thought there was I think everybody thought the Prague Farivar game was going to be good. But like just Helvetic playing Vienna close, it gives me a lot of hope with where the league is going. And yeah, I just what you're saying is spot on. It's spot on. I wish people understood that a little bit more before they go complain about the score of the games. Why that Frankfurt Cologne game was like I would show that to any American football fan and say, if you want to see what the ELF is about, go watch this game.
yeah, and I think eventually the ELF will be getting to a certain point where it is like that. Like that it's a lot more balanced and a lot more in a competitive nature. I think they're heading in the right direction. Obviously, they still have some kinks to work out as far as it's concerned, but that's just the way that the leagues are, especially when you're talking about its infancy. But I believe it was last year. I think Miami dumped 84 points on somebody in the NFL. So I mean,
Yeah,
like
70 to whatever it was. Yeah.
you know what I mean. So
Yep.
it's not entirely out of the question to see it even happen in the NFL.
Yep.
So I think people just like to complain because it's not the NFL, and I think that people need to stop using the NFL as the benchmark, for the football. I think the ELF is pretty competitive across the board as far as in comparison to the UFL. It's competitive in comparison to the CFL. It's competitive in the comparison to the LFA. Like, there's obviously a little bit of discrepancies in talent in certain areas, but I think the Vienna Vikings, if you took this team just how they are and put them in the UFL, I mean, they would succeed, or they would have some success. Like, I really honestly believe that. It's, like you could take any of those top teams in the ELF and kind of put that there. You say you do that, but I'm telling you, man, like
Oh, that might be a little too far.
Hey,
I was with you until I was tracking with you till the end there.
I didn't say championships. I said competitive. I didn't say championships. I say competitive. I think they would be competitive. I think so. You don't, no.
No, for the UFL with the UFL team.
I think if they were in the UFL, I think they could be competitive. Sure.
I think that the spread would be 50 points.
Of course, you would think that. I mean, okay, maybe I'm overstating it.
This
but
is the reason
anyway.
I say that. The reason I say that is,
Well,
if you probably put, okay, so you take the Vienna Vikings, for example. How many of those guys are starting on a UFL team? How many of their starters are starting on a UFL team?
Well, see, it's hard because they don't have the opportunity and chance really to come over either, because nobody's really looking at them. Like, so it's what's the team makeup? How's it coached? What's the chemistry with the players that are on the field? Like, a lot of that makes up a good chunk of it. It's not just, for me, it's not just a matter of talent versus talent on that front. Like, because like Reese Horn has played outdoor football over here and been successful. So it's not like Horn isn't a guy who can't come over here and be successful. It's just whether or not the other guys are able to do that, right? And I think that with the way Vienna has been coached, the way that they are coached, and the way that I think that they are more. And I'm just using Vienna as an example. I think there's a couple other teams that you could say that as well, but they're coached well enough, like even like Rhine, with like an NFL style of coaching and structure. So I think that plays a big part into what you may be surprised from with certain teams. Obviously, I wouldn't put I wouldn't say that about Frankfurt. I wouldn't say that about Cologne. You know what I mean? Like, nothing against those teams. They're just not there on that level, in my opinion. But it and I could be wrong, because Vienna did let up 40 to Helvetic, so I could be completely wrong in this situation for sure. But
it's a fun theoretical. I just think you have a lot of guys that are great players in Europe, and I would love to see them get a chance in the States. But you're talking about guys that make the UFL are the guys that are the first guys cut from the NFL team.
That's true. This is true.
And so you're talking about guys that have mostly all stepped in an NFL facility, all played pretty high at high levels in college. And how many, if you had to take the Vienna Vikings players, let's not even say UFL, let's say how many D1 or D2 players where you can give scholarships, how many D1 or D2 players are there on the team? I'm not sure, but
that's true.
That's just, I think we're still a little bit ways from that. I know when I was playing, for example, when I was playing, we had Swarco back in the day. Swarco, they were, now this was before the ELF, but they would have a showcase every year. They'd have a Division III school come out and play in Austria. And it was always close. Either Swarco won by score or the Division III team won, but that was a Division III team. Nothing against Division III teams. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
The talent. I don't know.
I've been a little overzealous on that, and a little hyped up over it for sure. But I mean, I don't know. I just think that the ELF has got a lot of talent, and I think that there's a lot of talent internationally on an international level as well. And honestly, I will sit there and say, as much as I would love to see an international player come overseas and be like extremely successful, I kind of want to see. I'm all about building brands, right? I'm all about build your brand where you're at. Like, if you're a guy who's bounced off of NFL teams like 3 or 4 or 5 times, like, why are you still trying to keep getting back to a situation where you're going to be on a practice squad and kind of be forget? I know it's money, but I know a lot of it's money, but like, build your brand. You know what I mean? Like, I've just always been that way. Like, I think the money eventually will come and whatnot, but this is a young league, too. So, eventually they'll grow into a nice little run. We got a little bit off topic on that, but whatever.
Sorry,
that was a nice conversation though. That was a nice conversation though. I like that. Look,
I just thought it was interesting. I was watching the games and I was just like, how are people complaining about this league? What other games are you going to go watch in Europe that are this entertaining? It does not. It doesn't happen. So that entertaining, that well produced, that many good players on the field at one time. Yeah. It was a good week for the ELF. And sorry, I know we're talking signings and stuff. The the biggest, I mean, what other big news is there besides the Hamburg news?
The Hamburg
Was there any?
no, Hamburg was really the only other one that really had any major moves and changes. I didn't really see anything.
'Cause I'm trying to think, did like a quarterback get injured? I didn't see anything
Nope.
from what,
We
no,
actually escaped pretty nicely outside of the Jarvis McClam
from watching the
injury.
games, at least I didn't see anything.
Yeah, we really escaped injury outside of the Jarvis McClam injury.
Here's a question for you. What did you think of Frankfurt's new quarterback, the NC State guy, McKay? Is his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's his first name? No, it's not Michael, is it? Matthew McKay.
Okay. I was about to ask my wife. She's a big NC State fan. She's another one.
Oh, Matthew McKay. He was a lot. There was a lot of talk with him about being a big-armed, bigger body kind of guy. A little bit of athleticism, a little bit more athleticism than Zaraka is. I thought he looked good for what it was against Cologne. Cologne is a defense that is really underrated. I've been saying it most of the year that they're a tough nut to crack. Basically, they're pretty solid across the front. They're pretty good, solid on the back end. They're not up there with the elite of the elite, but overall they'll disrupt and make some plays. And I really enjoyed watching these two quarterbacks, Isaiah Weed and McKay, go back and forth with each other. I did enjoy it. For his first start, coming in on short notice, I mean, what does he get? 3 practices since he's been there? Maybe 2 if he's lucky, to get acclimated to things. I thought it looked really well. I thought it looked really good for Frankfurt, and they may have made a right move by bringing him in with Zaraka going on IR.
Yeah, I mean, I nothing against Zaraka, but to me, it didn't look like. Was that the most points that Frankfurt had scored all year, or probably close to it?
It's close to it, yeah.
Their offense looked better. It did, and I think he had a lot of misses, but it was good misses in terms of the ball was. It looked like it was going in the right spot. Like him and Castle kind of didn't connect on a few, especially deep balls, and that's tough to do. That's just practice and reps and knowing where your guy's going to be. I saw him try and take a couple like shots over the middle in cover 2, and he missed by a hair. And I feel like with a couple more weeks of practice with those guys, he got him all the way down the field. And I know that last throw he probably wants back. You kind of got to give your guy a chance there on the last play of the game. But to know probably if your playbook is this big and he comes in 3 days, you've got to shrink it down to kind of like here. And for them to do what they did, considering the change, I thought it was impressive. I'm excited to watch him the rest of the way.
Me too. 2022, 20, 24, 15, and 28. So 28 is the highest it's been all year, and that was with a quarterback that came in late. Yeah, I'm excited to see what Frankfurt does as well. And Jamal did say that even before last week started that Cologne was better than Hamburg and Frankfurt. And that they should have beaten Madrid but lost by 11. I mean, and then he said Markel was quiet. Looks like Kevin Kaya was his go-to. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
and I think he tried to take some shots to Castle, and it just didn't. They just couldn't connect. He threw that pick in the red area. I think it was close to the red area to him. I saw that they didn't connect on one. Was it late in the third quarter? That probably, honestly, he was open. That's a touchdown maybe next week or 2 weeks from now. They just gotta figure it out, which they will. But yeah, Cologne's way better than their record is. That's for sure. But that's the conspiracy, if you're a conspiracy theorist, then the ELF put them in the wrong conference, right? So.
I mean, Cologne is just one of those teams. Like I had, my reservations about Isaiah Weed at the beginning of the year, and he's really won me over, and I'm actually becoming a fan of his, and I'm glad to see that they got a win, and that they're looking to hopefully put some together here, for sure. We talked about a little bit about Helvetic putting up 40 against Vienna. Now, for as good as my prediction was for Cologne, my score prediction was even worse for Vienna. I believe I picked my score prediction for this game was 63-3. So
Wow.
yeah.
I saw Jamal said they covered. So yeah,
They did. They covered.
for sure.
Yeah, I think the spread was like 41 or something. He said the last week, so it was like 41 and a half or something.
Jeez. Yeah, you never know in this league, but we're gonna keep complaining about how bad the games are. Yeah, Carlin Aiken Jr., man. I was literally watching the game
Oh
because
man.
Aaron said something about how he needs to stop posting stuff on Instagram and go play football, and I was like, Aaron's gonna be mad when he opens up Instagram tomorrow. I know that's how it's gonna be. But I was happy for him. I mean, he played so well. And it wasn't like Vienna was ever. I don't know if they were ever really in danger, but
Yeah, they didn't really feel like that they were in danger.
it was a fun. I mean, any chance you get to watch 89 points go up on a scoreboard, it's a fun game. I was impressed. I was watching the game with my father-in-law, and he doesn't watch a lot of ELF, and he just said 17 on Vienna. You can tell he looks different, and I just enjoy watching him and the way that the Vikings use him in the offense too, with the pre-snap motion and
Oh yeah.
everything they do to get him off the ball and stuff. It's fun to watch, and he had a game.
Yeah.
He
Oh
had
yeah.
a great game.
I
too.
mean, he's leading the league in receiving now. So I mean, it's it's Reese. He's still doing it after all these years. I mean, it's awesome to watch. It's incredible to see, and I'm glad he's showing success over there in with Vienna for sure. I mean,
So
Ben
talking about
Holmes.
news, how great of a signing was it to bring him in?
Oh, I mean,
throughout the year.
yeah, I was unsure what they were going to do with oh man, he was there forever. Why am I drawing a blank? Jamal might be able to help me out. He was their A import last year too, but he started the year. Weston Carr.
Yeah, Weston Carr.
I was a little bit surprised. I was interested to see what they were going to do with Weston Carr when he came back off of injury, and they just, they were just like, here you go, like, very classy from everything I heard. It was just Reese is playing lights out. There's really no reason to get rid of him at this point in time, and whatnot. So, yeah, I just, I think it was a hell of a signing. He came in, I think, the same week that Shelton Epler came in, or right around Shelton Epler, or right before Shelton Epler did with Ben Holmes' injury, and him and Epler hit it off right off the jump. And I think that's the great thing about a guy like Reese Horn, and why it's so good for a league like this, is he can come in and kind of just be that safety net without actually being like a tight end, right? Like he's that safety net for any quarterback that kind of comes in and just you're looking for him because he's just making plays.
Yep.
And I said that his play style reminds me so much of Cooper Kupp, right? Like it's just the play style, the route running, the little twitches, like it's so much fun to watch when you see a receiver put that together and is able to do that. Troy Brown is another guy that had a lot of success doing that. Older, I know I'm dating myself now, but yeah, like it's just those guys that are a lot of fun to watch for sure.
Yeah.
Sam has a message for you, by the way. He just says thank you for stepping in, sir.
No problem, Sam. I'm here for you, man.
Jamal said production in 3 seasons from Weston. Reese comes in and now leads the league receiving. Sure does.
I think the way that they use him in the offense is fun to watch. It's not. There's a couple times where he'll go deep and take the top off, but for the most part, it's what they do pre-snap to get him open. And he's running intricate routes. He's not just running a go ball past a DB. He is fun to watch with, like you said, his route running, and it's impressive. It's a lot of fun to watch him move. And I love some of the camera angles there for the games are too tight, and I love getting that kind of like looking like I'm in the press box, and they had that for that game, so I could kind of see how he moved. I was watching him a lot of that game.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to give a shout out to Jamal too for being kind of our inside stat guy, in correcting us on mistakes that we make as we go through, unofficially. But I appreciate all the help that we're getting because, there's ELF talking football, and I want to learn from everybody that I can. Jamal also did say there's a little inside news here. American DB Hunter Nichols, who they thought would return after a month, is out for the season. The Vikings are going to try to re-sign him in 2025 if he wants to continue playing. So there's a little bit of inside breaking news from Jamal for everybody out there as well. So that's great to hear, and hopefully Hunter can come back and play a little ELF next year with Vienna.
I hope so. Yeah.
I hope so too. Randy, I want to talk a little bit about the Paris collapse. I say the collapse. They won the game. It was 35-0, if I remember correctly. They only won this game 35-27.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a concern for Paris? Should this be a concern for Paris? Because I know it's Berlin, and Berlin's been putting up numbers with Sullivan, but you're up 35-0, and you only win by 8. That has got to be somewhat of a concern for Paris.
I want to be careful because I feel like I'm coming off as like this Paris hater every time we get on. I really enjoy watching them play. I like watching Zach Edwards. Mark Mattioli is a great guy and a great coach. So I want them to succeed. I'm going to say that from the jump. I feel like I've been saying this all year long. It just doesn't. I don't know what they are. What I mean by that is they're too Zach Edwards reliant, right? When he went out there in the first half and played lights out, they're on fire. And then for whatever reason, maybe you get conservative. You're up by that much. You get a little conservative. And you gotta keep the pedal to the metal there, especially what happened after the Rhine game. I mean, let's not forget that this has been a common theme this season. So in the Rhine Fire game, were they up 14-0 at one point or 10-0, something like that? So they seem a little too quarterback dependent, and that's fine when you have Zach Edwards. You can be, but you live and die with him. And I honestly do not know what they are. They beat the teams they should. They lose to the Rhine Fire when you're up by 10-0. I think, to me, if they're a team that makes the playoffs, it's a team that I would have at this point in the season being beaten in the first week of the playoffs, because I just haven't seen them put together 4 quarters of good football against a quality team, which Berlin is. But I mean, if Berlin doesn't get that penalty late in the game, we could have been talking overtime and a potential loss. What were your thoughts?
Well, Jamal beat me to what I was going to get ready to say. Is first and foremost, it's awesome to hear the difference between you and Zach, because you are questioning Paris and whether or not Paris is what their identity is and whether or not they're ready to be at that top. And Zach is all fledged on this train. He's all on the wagon for Paris going to the championship game. So
really,
oh yeah, he said it before the season started. Week 1, we did overtime that was his choice to be in the championship game was Paris, and they were going to be outside of Germany for once, winning the championship. But Jamal did bring it up to me, did bring it up in the chat, and I want to give him credit because he did say it before I got a chance to. This is not a situation with Paris where you can do this against a top team, right? You cannot do this against, I would even say, a couple of the other teams like Madrid. I don't know if you could do this against Madrid. And, the Fire, the Surge, the Vikings, all those teams on the top, if you want to get to that point, you cannot let that happen, right? They don't have an identity. I completely agree with you. Their identity is Zach Edwards, which is fine because he's one of the best quarterbacks ever to play in Europe. But when it's your only identity, it becomes one-dimensional. And it feels like Berlin made the adjustments in this game in the second half, and Paris didn't. And I don't know if that was just because Paris felt like they could just go in cruise control or what, but the second half to me wasn't close. If that Berlin team had scored even and I want people to remember too, the Paris scored on a trick play.
Right.
So so you take away that trick play touchdown. I know you can't take things away, but if you take away that trick play, this game's 28-27. Like we're talking, a much closer game than that 35-0 halftime score coming out of halftime looked like, right? This game looked like it was well on its way to a 60-10 game or whatever. Shout out to Berlin. Shout out for Sullivan. Shout out for this team making the adjustments. And Paris needs to figure that out because they cannot do that, at all. Moving forward, Jamal did say 5 of the next 6 games are away, heading to Madrid, Rhine, Franklin, Cologne, and Berlin. And a lot of that's because of the Paris Olympics, as we all know. So they have to be the road warriors to try to secure a playoff spot, as Jamal said. So yeah,
that's the question. I really want to see them against Madrid. That will be a great game. That will be the litmus test for them. The litmus test, right? Is like, can you go to Madrid and beat a team that Madrid's good, but it's their first year. Can you beat a team that you should beat? Now, I'm looking here. So here's, I guess, the ELF did post kind of the playoff picture. I don't know if you saw that. So right now, the first round would be Paris at Madrid.
Yeah.
Who are you taking? That's tough.
Right now at this point in time, I would have to take Madrid just because it feels a little more of an identity with them. And Madrid's defense, I know that they struggled not last week, but the week beforehand. They're fast. They're quick sideline to sideline. Their speed stands out to me when I watch games, especially at that linebacker position. When they're going, east and west, they might be the fastest team laterally on defense in the league, at least in the middle of that field. It's just I feel like they don't get a pass rush, and that's where Zach Edwards could eat them alive. Against a team like Barcelona, sure, their pass rush looks amazing. But no offense to Barcelona, shout out to them for playing the game. Shout out for them getting the team out there as well. We expected the result, but they finished the game, and that's what's important. So I just want to give the shout out real quick to Barcelona because that can't go unstated. I'm sorry, that needs to be brought up in that sense. So I just want to make sure I give a shout out to Barcelona for that, even if their management doesn't deserve it. I'm still going to be super critical of them, but it's just the way that is. But yeah, so I don't know, man. I would have to say I would take probably Madrid in this situation unless Paris was able to let Zach Edwards just be Zach Edwards. But these next road games are going to be very hard for Paris, and it's going to be kind of telling what's their identity going to be then. Because that's a tough schedule on the road.
Yeah, we'll find out real quick who they are. Thanks, Jamal, for pointing that out. Yeah, we'll find out real quick. They played a lot of home games.
They're the Team California. They're Team California for the ELF this year, because I don't know if you saw how many miles California is going to be traveling for the ACC this year, but it's like 2,200 miles or something like that.
Nothing like playing in the Atlantic Coast Conference as Stanford, So but yeah, I'm anxious to see how they do. I think Madrid is, like you said, fast. Anytime you play a Spanish team, they're fast and they're very athletic. Paris is too. They're probably one of the fastest teams that you watch play. So that'll be good. But when you talk about coaching, identity, who has the edge? And maybe Paris, has the quarterback edge, but that's just for me. Zach Edwards has a game that he's 80%, and they don't beat Madrid, right? Yeah. So that's I don't know. It's just tough watching them play. It's so tough watching them play because you see how good they can be, and then they go and almost blow a 30+ point lead. Right?
Yeah, that's pretty rough. Yeah. And the last really good game that was on the slate last week, first and foremost, before we get to a shout out to Glenn Tunga, the guy is just incredible. Stuttgart 5-point victory over the Raiders T-Roll. I'll be honest, this game was closer than I thought. I know it was closer than what Jamal thought. As bad as my Vienna prediction was, Jamal's prediction for this game may have been just as bad overall. But 30-25, this game was close. But this was also a game to me that kind of felt similar to Vienna with Helvetic. Was it didn't really ever feel like Stuttgart was in trouble, even though they were.
Yeah. I was excited because there was a point there. I think I said it was going to be 30-20, and I think it was like 30-19 or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, I'm going to hit this almost on the head, and then they scored. But honestly, for me, this is where the difference between a Surge team and a Musketeers team are for me. The Surge have proven what they are throughout the year. They're gonna be solid on offense. They're gonna play great defense, and they're not gonna make a ton of mistakes. They're just a very buttoned up. They're probably maybe the most complete team in the league. I don't think I'm going on a limb and saying that. So when they go, you're the Surge, and you're playing in Innsbruck against a pretty good Raiders team, to be in control for most of the game and still come out of there with the win. Like in my book, you're kind of allowed a couple of those games a year.
Yeah.
And I still was impressed with how Surge played. And then let's not understate that the Raiders aren't going away. I still feel like that game at the end of the year between the Raiders and the Ravens, I think it's the last week of the year. I hope that game is teed up for who's playing for the last spot in the playoffs. It very well could be.
Yeah. And I agree with you. The Ravens, Munich is another team that they're very similar to me. They're very similar to me like Paris. They're very similar to me like, I would have said Warklaw at the beginning of the year, but probably Madrid now. Mm-hmm. They're like right on that cusp, right? Like they're just right there. How bad do they want to get it? And so far, the 2 games where they had a chance to prove that they belong, they haven't been there yet. So we'll see what happens with Munich moving forward. They have a very favorable schedule, or at least on paper they do. But as we learned last week, nothing on paper seems to be the case. So, we'll see what happens from there. Real quick, before I take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsor, Randy, has your front runner for MVP changed at all yet, even coming out of the week? I know it's still midway through the season. It has changed.
It's Glenn Tunga.
Yeah. It's Glenn Tunga. Yeah. It definitely is Glenn Tunga. And yes, Jamal, I agree with you. Munich is definitely playing with house money. I agree as well. So we'll take a quick break here from our sponsor. And on the flip side, we'll get into the predictions and previews. Jamal, I want you part of this because you played the 5th last time.
This is Current. It's the card my parents used to pay me for mowing the lawn, running errands, and doing well in school. Oh, wow. This is the card I used when we got the idea to make our own clothes. And we spread the word, drove downtown, and sold everything we made. This is the card I use to do the things that really matter. This is Current. Visit current.com and download the app for free today.
Oh, welcome back. Make sure you hit up Current and use the product and hit our code up as well for, whatever the perks are when it comes to using our code. And make sure that you use the product because the product's a really good one as well. Jamal was laughing, by the way, at my comments exiting out about him pleading the 5th. So I need to see if I can get any more plead the 5th cases from him this week as well. Let's start. The Milano Seamen coming off a bye week, which I know that Zach definitely needed when I talked to him. It was nice to kind of get that. He was really disappointed with how the Helvetic game went in that rain with him shot putting the ball basically from the second half. I don't know if we mentioned this on air or not, but they had 3 or 4 game balls, and they didn't bring any additional ones for a rainstorm. So he was literally playing with waterlogged balls against Helvetic in that second half. And it's pretty that's pretty hard for any quarterback, as Randy and Aaron let me know last week about how rough that is as a quarterback playing with that. So hopefully they can avoid any rainstorms when they travel to VFR to take on the Enthroners. The Enthroners came off a big win against Prague. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah. Are the Enthroners here? Are the Enthroners someone we should be talking about in 2025 going on the run to the playoffs? No, I'm just kidding.
I think you talk about my stretch with Vienna playing in the UFL. That might be just as much of a stretch.
What about the Enthroners versus the UFL team?
Yeah. Oh man.
I think I think Milano coming off of a loss. The Enthroners are riding a high. I'm big into the psychology of it, I guess, but give me Milan. Let's go 20 to 10.
20 to 10. This Milan team has been very interesting because I feel like that they have been there. They've had a chance on offense. I predicted 21 for them. They were so close, and then their kicking game was terrible, and then there were self-inflicted wounds late in the game. Then I predicted 27. They hit the 21 mark, but then again they were. So I'm going to say that Milan wins this one as well. I think that this offense, the switch to offensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator's allowed Zach to kind of play the game the way that he knows how to play it, kind of allowing him to just use his athleticism. As long as he continues to do that, I think that they outmatch VFR. I think Jacques Crawford could have a big game as well in this situation. So I'm going to say 24. I'll meet him halfway. I'll say 24 to 17. I'll go with a more traditional score, even though I don't think it's going to happen. Jamal says 19 to 17 because, again, traditional scores just don't happen in this league at all. I saw a crazy stat, by the way, speaking about kicking, which I blame myself for, but there was 48 missed NFL kicks over the course of the last, 3 years since they moved it back or whatever, the extra point. There was 84 missed extra points already this year in the ELF, something like that. So that's 84 points left on the boards, left on the field in these games that are based off of extra points. So
go for 2.
I was gonna say it might be. I was gonna say I think the game analytics say go for 2 in the ELF. In that front. Here's a good one. We were just talking about Paris. Paris is at Madrid. First game of 5 out of 6 over this next 6 games that are on the road for Paris. What are your thoughts on this one? Does Paris maybe come out and show an identity, or is it still Zach Edwards all day, every day?
This is tough. This is a really tough one. I think the time that Madrid has struggled this year has been against teams that can run the ball. You saw what Ryan Fire did to him, and Ryan Fire does it to everybody. But can the Musketeers establish a run game? And we know for them that means, can Zach Edwards establish the run game? If the answer is yes, I think they win this game. If they can't, I see Madrid coming out with this one. So this is tough. My head tells me Paris. My heart tells me Madrid. So I'm going to go with my heart, and I'm going to say Madrid 25, Paris 20.
Oh, 25 to 20. I was thinking you could always ask your wife to make the decision for you between your head and your heart. That's what I would do. I'd just be like, hey, babe, can you just make this decision for me? So
she said Madrid in the background.
She said Madrid in the background.
Yep.
Okay, all right. So you went with Madrid 25 to 20. Jamal went with Paris 24 to 17. I'm going with Paris. I'm not confident about it. I'm going to say 20. I'm going to say 29-27.
Okay.
I think maybe as awful as the kicking been, it's maybe a late kickoff, walk-off field goal. Mm-hmm. Maybe a special teams return for a touchdown late in the game. It's hard to really put words into what this game can be because this Madrid defense is really fast. But like you said, so is Paris. Paris is very quick across the board as well. And I give the quarterback edge to Zach, and just because there's a quarterback edge, that's usually where I go with, even though I know the league isn't all about quarterbacks. It's just Steven Duncan has not played the best against some of the higher end teams, and then Paris is like right there on the cusp of it, and I'm worried that Duncan's going to have too many turnovers. If he can limit those turnovers, Madrid has a very, very, very key. Could easily win this key game for sure. So,
what if I told you the game's going to go Paris will score 20 in the first half and then not score 10 and lose?
Well, I mean, if Paris scores and then they don't score again in the second half, they're going to lose by at least 18. Like they're going to lose by double digits for sure if they don't find a way to score in the second half again. But I don't think that will be the case. I think they're going to put together a good 4 quarters because I can't imagine that anybody in that team is happy with that second half performance last week. So, Vienna at Berlin. This is another one of those games where I don't know. I mean, is it time that somebody kind of beats Vienna, or is it just going to be Berlin not being able to? They have the offensive firepower to hang with them. It's just that defense is the question mark.
Yeah, defense, the secondary. Yeah, this one you could really see going. If the Vienna that shows up against Helvetic shows up, you could see this being the same type of shootout. But if it's the Berlin that shows up in the first half against Paris, it's not going to be close. So give me Vienna to go into Berlin and win by 2 scores. I'll go 33-19 Vienna.
I'm still on the train that on this hill, and I'll die on this hill, that Vienna is the most balanced team in the league. They may not be the most explosive. They may not be the best defensively. I think they're the most balanced, though, across the board. Now, however, they did give up 40 to Helvetic, and that was something that we definitely did not see. I don't think anybody predicted at all. Me, most of all. And I don't see them being surprised in this one. I think Vienna is going to take that game against Helvetic on a fairly personal level and be like, there's no reason this team should have hung with us. I think they're going to come out and smack Berlin in the mouth early. And I like your score, but I think I'm going to stick with probably 37 to 20, I think is where I'm going to go with it. And Jamal said 34 to 21. So we're all kind of like right around that same range. I think Berlin's definitely going to score because of this offensive firepower. It's just, I don't know if that defense is going to be able to hang, and Vienna's definitely going to be looking to rebound against coming off that game against Helvetic. So
you and Jamal you guys are probably nailed on the head when we review this game next week, but Berlin's they're catching Vienna at a tough time here.
Yeah.
At the wrong time.
Warclaw coming off a bye week. They now travel to Stuttgart because apparently the ELF hates them this year and decided to give them all their tough games in the first 8 weeks. And Stuttgart coming off a 5-point victory in a tough fought game against the Raiders. Is it possible that the Panthers took that bye week and was able to gel finally as a team and maybe can upset Stuttgart here, or is it still this is Stuttgart's game to lose?
It's certainly Stuttgart's game to lose, but that's what also kind of makes it scary, right? Is you have a Warclaw team coming in that if they finally put all of their pieces together, because they have good pieces on offense, on defense, in the secondary, at receiver, it could be a closer game than some people think. I don't think so. I think the Surge handles them. So give me the Surge. Let's go Surge 40.
Whoa.
And Warclaw 17.
Oh, okay. I can tell you right now, Jamal, that Randy's very upset that you're not putting the spreads in the chat because he needs to know.
Yeah,
Um,
I
by
need,
all,
I need the spread tomorrow.
he needs the over unders as well. Like, you know what I mean? uh, you know, the Surge. This game is interesting to me because the Panthers did come off a win heading into their bye week. It was ugly as hell, and it was probably one of the worst played games in the league this year. But they had a bunch of imports coming in. A bunch of changeover with the team. They had 2 weeks to work on it, and they had nothing but to focus on Stuttgart. Stuttgart had to focus on the Raiders last week, and now they then turned their attention to the Panthers. Or maybe they were looking at the Panthers ahead of time, and that's the reason why the game against T-Roll was so close. It's hard to tell. The biased Panthers in me think that this puts Stuttgart on upset alert. I'll be honest with you. I think it puts them on upset alert just because I think the Panthers are a dangerous team no matter what. However, I think Stuttgart wins this game. I don't think it's going to be as wide open as you guys both think it is because Jamal has it 42-20, and you had it 40 to what? 20?
40 to 17.
40 to 17. I think Stuttgart wins this game 31-26.
Wow.
I think it's going to be a close game. I think that it's going to be a second straight game for Stuttgart of just being close. I don't know what the spread is, but I disagree with this comment. I think the Panthers will cover. So, well, depending on what the spread is. If the spread's 2 points, and obviously they're not going to, but over under 63 on that one. So I think that's an under for me. 31-26, yeah. So.
Ooh, the over under 63. That's tough. That's tough. I think I could see the Surge scoring a lot of points here.
I think this defense is the Panthers secondary is awful. I mean, it is awful. So there is a good chance they could go in and put up even a 50 burger. To be honest with you,
I see Riley Hennessy throwing for 350 plus, and I would be surprised if he's not throwing for 4 more touchdowns.
Don't upset alert. It's gonna happen. He won't hit. He won't hit either one of those marks.
You should do it. You should take the Panthers. You should do it right now. Flip the score. Panthers 31 and Vorklaw 20. Surge 26.
Matty Ice. I don't know. I don't know if I could take the Panthers. As much as I would love to, I don't know if I can. Helvetic. I know that Jamal's going to pick Helvetic, or he's going to pick Helvetic to cover anyways. Travels to Munich, taking on a Ravens team that is I can't imagine that they're extremely happy with how the season has gone so far for them, especially against the top teams. They have a nice little stretch coming up on paper, but Helvetic scored 40 against Vienna. Is this an upset alert possibly, or is it just no? Like, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are no. My thoughts are no. I can't see Helvetic duplicating what they did. Now, maybe they will, but maybe they found some secret sauce. But it seemed to me like that was more of a lightning in a bottle one-off thing than something they had been building up to for weeks watching them play. So that's why I say that. Hopefully that's not the case and it's a great game. But give me the Ravens in somewhat of a blowout. I think the Ravens have a lot to prove. Ravens 34, Helvetic. I'll go crazy. 11.
Oh, 11.
11. Right. A field goal and a 2-point conversion here for 8 points. That's why. Helvetic does not cover that.
Jamal doesn't even give us score predictions for Helvetic. He just gives us whether they cover or not, and then he gives us the over/under. That's all he does.
Jamal, do we want to actually do like a gentleman's bet on this? I'll do like I'll do some push-ups next week or something if Helvetic doesn't cover, or it does cover. I'll do push-ups if they do cover. There's no way they're covering that.
Oh, look at this little gentleman bet, Jamal. You gonna take it?
I'll do. We'll do whatever you want. Not whatever you want. We'll put it in the chat.
we'll put it in the chat. He says.
I'm not.
That's so funny. I think Munich is Yeah, I think Munich is definitely on. Well, I mean, he says Helvetic on the money. So, I mean, I don't think Helvetic covers the 14 either. I think Munich is going to win this game 38-16. Carlton Aikens looked well. Push-ups are the difference in the score, he says.
I like that a lot. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
That's a deal.
All right.
So
There hopefully this game isn't 72. Hopefully this game isn't 72-3 in favor of Munich for you, Jamal.
The only downside is Jamal is on the other side of the screen, so like he can just tell us he did the push-ups, he's good.
I take Jamal. I take Jamal for his word. He's a man of integrity, so
that's true. That's true.
I take Jamal for his word.
You're right. You're right.
Frankfurt at Rhein.
Frankfurt at Rhein.
Yeah. This is Matthew McKay's second game.
First of all, how good are the games? You're going to have all those games we just went over besides the Milano game at the same time. So that'll be fun.
Yep.
Frankfurt and Rhein. This might be closer than some people think. This could be a good game. Now, the Rhein Fire are rolling right now. Rolling. See, I'm not. Jamal said, "No, I got you on X." I am never really on X, but I'll get on for the push-up thing.
Randy, you got to get a social media presence, my man. You got to. Whoever's running you need to hire somebody to run your accounts. I mean, or maybe once your daughter's old enough, maybe you could just let her run your accounts for you. Like
I can have my wife do it. She's too busy. My wife is literally. I'll plug her real quick. She had that sounded weird. I'll plug her stuff real quick. She literally created her own business. She does. You know how you have to bring in clear bags to sporting events. So she started. I did used to break down film. I had a whole long form YouTube thing going. Jamal's talking about.
He's going to fax you his push-ups, he said.
Yes, thank you. If you can send it via mail, that would be great, Jamal.
Snail mail, you got to send snail mail.
Snail mail. She customizes clear bags. So if you're a big Warclaw Panthers fan, she would put like Warclaw or Panthers rhinestone it. Looks all great. She posted on TikTok and it blew up.
Nice.
And now she is like, she got a contract with Tennessee Titans. She has she's been doing stuff for like Christian McCaffrey's girlfriend's sister stuff. And we went to last year, the Miami Dolphins, an agency that represents a bunch of NFL players. They go like do these tailgates for the families. So she did, we went to Miami for the Dolphins Raiders game and she did stuff for Tua's family, Jalen Ramsey, all this stuff. So, she's the one that's great at social media. So I need to, in all of her free time with doing that and taking care of the baby, she needs to run my social media.
Oh yeah. I'm sure she would agree with you.
I appreciate you following me, Jamal. I'm sorry I fell off. I don't have time, man. Work. I don't know how Michael's doing all this stuff. I'm maxed out here with time.
To be honest with you, I got lucky that with everything that I do in my personal life, a lot of it runs through my phone in general. So, I mean, I utilize it to max it out. I'm not even that good on social media myself. I literally just repost a lot of things and just kind of, I do what I can, but I'm not the greatest at it either. So, I mean, I feel you.
It's impressive what Michael and Jamal, you guys have done, especially for the ELF and just your presence on social too. I mean, that's how the league built itself, essentially. Yep. That's what the other leagues in Europe couldn't do. So anyway, sorry, I know we're way off track, but
no, you're good.
Rhein Fire, give me the Rhein Fire. Rhein Fire win by 20. We'll go 35 to 14.
14. All right.
I hope it's closer than that. I really do.
Yeah, I have a tough time with Matty McKay, man. Kudos to him last week, even though they came up short. He wants to know real quick, what's the name of the bag wife? Wife is asking. What's the name of the bag wife?
CKS, like the the letters CKS, it's her initials, and then Customs. She's on social, TikTok, Instagram, all the things that I suck at. So CK's Customs. Go look it
Yeah.
up. She's got a whole thing. She's got a whole thing going for her. She's in the background right now with her sweatshop going.
With her sweatshop.
She's got literally, she employs her whole family now to do bags, so it's great. Bags, jackets, she does it all. Fire 15 to Frankfurt 17.
Yeah. Ryan could score 55. I could see that no problem. I'm gonna have to. Does she have a website?
Yep.
You said CKS Customs.
Yep. And we're going over to Europe. Jamal's in Europe, right?
Are
you in Europe?
No, I don't believe he is.
I don't know why I thought you were in Europe right now. I was about to say we're going over to Europe if you need us to ship something. It's a lot cheaper. We're going over in a few weeks.
No, I'm in Maine.
Yeah, she's got a website, ckcustoms.com.
Okay, I'll have to see if I. Do you hear that in the background? By the way, I don't know if you can hear that.
Is it a cat?
That's my cat. He's
He's
got his little toy in his mouth, and he's crazy. Anyways, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot Jamal was in Maine. That's right. I forgot he was still in Maine. That's right. He's in Maine with me. That's right.
Man.
I think he's down in Portland, if I remember correctly, or the southern part of the state.
It's a good time up there in Maine. How are you guys?
In Maine? Well, he went to Maine.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a black bear.
Okay.
As well. So I mean, this dude. Yeah, Jamal's a man. I haven't met him yet, but yeah, I think he's down in the Portland area for sure. So I keep forgetting he's in Maine, man. Literally an hour from me.
I need to get up to Maine, I guess, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, you don't want to be up here in the winters.
No.
No, you don't want to be up here in the winters. No,
we lived in Boston when I was a kid, and it was just heat of snow.
Yeah, no, the Maine winters they're rough. The last couple of years have been mild, but every now and then you know April 2nd will roll around, you'll get 14 inches of snow. So yeah, I got Ryan in this game as well. Get back on track again. I got Ryan in this game. I want to say, I don't know if I gave a score already, but I'll say 43 to 19. 43 to 19. And then the last game on the slate is Hamburg at Cologne. And can I just mention that until you pointed it out, this scheduling is weird.
Yeah.
Out of the 7 games, there's 1 on Saturday, and there's 4 on at the same time at 7 a.m. on Sunday Eastern time. Anyways, that's really strange to me.
Yeah, I know they have something. Let me look at last week's games.
That's strange.
They don't like putting teams that played away on a short, 6-day week, if I'm really not mistaken. So maybe that has something to do with it and why a lot of the games are pushed to Sunday. But yeah, I mean, I get Paris obviously playing a bunch of away games during the Olympics, but that's a lot of games on Sunday.
That's a lot of games. The last game is Hamburg with their 3 new A imports, including Torren Justice making his debut, taking on Cologne, and a team that, a lot of people feel are underrated and much tougher than they appear to be.
I hope this has the same setup as the Frankfurt Cologne game.
Me too.
I think it has the potential to be really close. This to me is a toss-up. I think Cologne is playing better football at the moment. Man, this is tough. Give me Hamburg. I'll take Hamburg 27 to 21.
Wow, Hamburg.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right, Hamburg. All right. We'll run with that, I think, maybe. I mean, I'm interested to see what Jamal thinks about this one, but I'm going Cologne.
I was waiting for him to put it in the chat so I could piggyback off him, and then
I'm going Cologne. I'm taking Cologne here. I think that Cologne is going to win this game. Isaiah Weed, it's just the stability of the quarterback position. I know D'Angelo Fulford's going into his second game. It's a good game for him. Torren Justice, I think, is going to be a good difference maker, but this Cologne defense, I think, is solid enough to a point where it's going to I think, disrupt Fulford enough to be a difference maker. I think it's going to be a one-score game. I'm going to say 29-22. 29-20. I have no. Jamal apparently has taken a nap or something. He's not put his post his score in this game.
I'm with you, man. I'm a big. He's finding the spread in the over.
Oh, he was finding the spread. Over under 36 and 36.5. I'm taking the over in this one. I think that was an over.
Me too. That seems low.
That seems really low.
That seems like you drain the bank account. You put on the over right there. Don't sue me.
Don't sue me.
I don't know. I'm turning into a big, like you are. You got me on the Isaiah Weed train, and he is. Find myself cheering for him every week. So I would love to see Cologne pull us out. I feel like Hamburger's going to take this one.
Man, and the thing about it is I always, if I'm a guy who is critical of you and you go out and prove me wrong, I will forever be a fan of you no matter what. I will support you across the board. It does not change anything to me. And Isaiah, we did that for me. Like, it wasn't that I was critical of him. I just didn't know what to expect from him, right? Like, jumping up from GFL 2, I know that he had played in the GFL 1, but it's a jump up in competition. Like, I wasn't expecting much from him, and he I just found myself like watching his games, going, this kid can play, this kid can ball. So, and he's left-handed, so it's always interesting to see a left-handed quarterback out there.
Yeah, he's just kind of he's a gunslinger too. Like, he just lets it go.
Right? Yeah. Jamal, you gonna give us a score on this game, or no? Just give us the over/under that Randy told us to drink the bank account on. Yeah. Yeah. See, look what you did, Randy.
Oh, the savings on that.
He said 24-12. There you go. Cologne. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 24-12 Cologne. I'm assuming that's Cologne. Yeah. He said He said it's Cologne. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So anyways, Randy, nice shout out to ckscustoms.com as well. Go hit up Randy's wife's business and make sure you support that, because locally owned or smaller owned is always the way to go. So make sure you support them. Hit up Athletes Forum on Twitter. Hit the YouTube subscribe. Hit the little notifications button as well. He posts great content, especially if it's about the ELF as well. Jamal, thank you again for tuning in and being our undated or what's the word I'm looking for? Unofficial stat guy. I appreciate that, especially with the over-unders, because Randy gets really happy about that. So, as well. And give a shout out to Randy somewhere on social media, I guess, if you can. Just shout out his name, he'll appear. That's just the way it goes, And then, of course, for me, Shady Sports Network, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the notification thing as well. And Jamal did say production guy will be back next week, so that's awesome news. I like hearing that.
Let's go. Thanks.
I like hearing that as well. And you can hit me up on social media. You can hit me up on all of them if you want. Threads, Blue Sky, X, Facebook. It's all Michael Washington. I probably have a picture of either the Calgary Stampeders or the Warclaw Panthers right now because they're in season. That's how I do my photo. Like my little. It's literally just when I'm rotating NFL season or football seasons. It's my favorite team. Like, that's it. That's all I do. I'm a pretty private guy, so it's never a picture of my face because you see enough of this ugly mug during the week. But this is Summer Showcase Overtime. We'll be back next week, 6 p.m. Eastern with Zach Bronkhorst. Make sure you hit up Summer Showcase on Tuesday next week, where hopefully Randy will be joining me as long as my co-host Bryce. Maybe we'll get Aaron Ellis back on as well before he heads over to Japan, if possible. I know he's gone in a week, so I don't know if it will happen or not. I think he leaves on the 24th. But I do have an interview with Aaron coming out very soon. I got to get together with him, link up with him, and get that together. But be on the lookout for that next week as he does head to Japan. Playing football year-round. That's crazy for that man. So if you're interested in what he's got going on, make sure you tune in for that. And Summer Showcase Northern Lights, the CFL that I do, is on Wednesday nights at 10:30 p.m. as well. So that will be tonight, actually. because it's my late show. And yeah, that's it for me. Randy, you have any shout outs or anything you want to give to anybody real quick? Or
Go buy a bag for my wife. Support local business.
Yeah.
CK's Customs.
Nice
They're
plug.
great. They're
I love
great.
it.
They're great.
I love
Bag,
the plug.
bag, jacket. She does footballs now. That was the
Nice.
contract with the Titans. Yeah. She gives I guess the Titans are going to use her to give when away teams come in this year, they're going to give they give gifts to the opposing team owners, and so she's going to get to make footballs for all of the owners in the NFL that are going to the Titans. So she's excited about the Robert Kraft one. It'll be iconic.
Nice. Make sure you hit that up as well and support my man Randy and his wife over there as well. Until next week, so long.